pull up, threw some bucks down. Tired till the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best for my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify tap, you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for they prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaders he was planning. I had them all down before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. Boy, that flight to Amsterdam. When my accountant of minus my family found out too and didn't like it. You're not in the salon with Dale said and I thought he was biased. Then I got a Venmo that said copy the finest. Before my foolishness settled in, recorded the whole tape before we got to Berlin. This close to giving up and now never again. Don't overlook the work and come expecting to win. In the end, my word, never put nothing over the squad. Got it right up under their nose to try the facade. Off the cliff with broken wings, I'm aware of the odds. Enough faith for us all, I'm the one for the job. Most days, catching sun rays, baby, look like the front page. Overthinking what they might say, have it your way, yeah. The biggest threat is something they never seen. Dial it up, patch me into the screen. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up.
What's up, good people? This is Jackie Luqman.
And I am Abdul Shahid, a.k.a. Baba Luqman.
And welcome to another episode number 2 of the Cypher in Luqman Nation.
Still the most dangerous show on social media, the Cypher.
Oh, is that what we call it?
No, the Cypher.
So, yeah, we've got a few new topics that we want to talk about this week. We decided to keep it a little bit, teeny bit on the lighter side, only because we got a really heavy interview coming up Friday on Black Power Media. We are going to talk with Cam Howard of NCOBRA about reparations, the recent HR 40 hearings, where we are now in the fight for reparations and where we go from here. And yeah, there's some other great stuff coming up on Black Power Media. So if you have not taken a peep at Black Power Media, if you've not checked out Black Power Media, please do. You will not regret it. But as always, listen, we thank you so much for your support. We thank you for joining us. If you like what you see and hear here in Luqman Nation, you can always subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at Luqman Nation, the number one word, the number one. And you can like us on Facebook under Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Luqman Nation. And as always, please consider becoming a patron. We appreciate your support. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Luqman Nation. And there is special patron content on Patreon for you if you decide to become a patron. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, and also remember that the Cypher is it's going to be exclusively on Luqman Nation channel. But if you want to catch our other content, come over to Black Power Media. We've really been having a ball on or BPM, as I like to call it, on BPM, and we encourage you all. Some of you have already caught us over there, caught our content, and you maybe many of you have became members, which is good. We are really trying to help in this endeavor of expanding Black media that we can control, Black media that is uncompromising. That's it's the future of Black media, revolutionary media, and so we're on the ground. We're on the ground floor of this. And shout out to I Mix What I Like, Dr. Jared Ball, Renegade Culture, Dr. CVS, and Rosa Clemente, and others.
Dr. Chajwa.
Dr. Chajwa, yes. So I was gonna let you handle that because, but Dr. Chajwa, but yo, let me tell you something. On my, this media is running 24/7. So Black Power Media is running 24/7, and I have, on my own, watched this channel not for 24 hours straight, but I constantly check in on Black Power Media, and let me tell you something. It is some dynamite discussions going on over there. Really some dynamite content. I mean, I mix what I like and all the rest of them, and but the whole thing about the new developments that's happening behind the assassination of Malcolm X. Yeah. I mean, high power stuff, folks. This is stuff, and one of the things about Black Power Media, Jackie, that I felt, this is something that we said here on Luqman Nation. We are not here, and please hear what I'm saying. We are not here to entertain, right? We are here to really get the revolution, to push the revolution forward. That's what we're here for. So we're not here for a popularity contest. We're not here to compete for any popularity contest. We are so glad that many of you have tuned in and understand what this mission truly is about. Because when Jackie and I first started this, it was a lot of star chasing going on. But with Black Power Media right now, there's a lot of star chasing going on. But Black Power Media is not about the star chasing. It's not about the all of those things that we have a tendency as people sometimes to reduce things down to. We are trying to elevate Black Power Media. We're trying to elevate media and bring it to what media is supposed to be about, which is telling the truth.
And especially telling the truth toward the end of the liberation of Black working class, poor and oppressed people around the world. So yeah, we are very, very proud to be a part of that project, as well as the other organizations we belong to. After we hop off this stream, and I'm so glad you made that point, because we try to do this show at 7:00 pretty consistently because of our schedules, but we decided to move the show up tonight because we wanted to make space for our comrades who are doing a special Assata Shakur study group. Pan-African Community Action is, you can go on their Facebook page and check out that information. At 7:00, they're doing a study group, which they do twice a month. But this study group is a special where they have Daruba Ben Wahad on talking, and Rosa Clemente talking about giving analysis on Judas and the Black Messiah from a radical perspective, not just from, this is a Hollywood, this is a great movie perspective. So we decided to move our show to give them space for that, and to make sure that our comrades who have other things going on, because our comrade and sister Ricky Ryan has a dope book club study group herself that she conducts. We don't like to compete with our people. There's plenty of work to do.
Yep.
There is a lot of work to do, and a lot of us are doing it all over the place. So we don't see a need to compete with our people. We want all our people to succeed, because we have to succeed at achieving our revolution, and we can't do that stepping all over each other.
And just one more thing to add, Jackie, is that with people like Brother Daruba and Rosa, we're talking about people, man, who are like, you could go on YouTube right now and see a whole bunch of cast of characters who's reviewing Judas and the Black Messiah, my take on this and my take on that. But these are people who were there. And when I mean there, they were involved in these organizations. Yeah. They have access to information. They embody information that you ain't going to hear on brother such and such channel, or sister such and such channel, or Enlightened Stars channel, and all this other kind of stuff. These are people who are in this struggle, who've lived this struggle, who have even lost their freedom for this struggle. So this is not something that we take lightly, right? And this is something that we encourage all of you, if you're really about this struggle, to really check out. So anyway,
yes. So before we get to our topics, want to say hey to everybody in the chat: Neil, Ricky, Goddess, Leah, Torches and Pitchforks, Chanel, Michael Huff. Good to see y'all. David Silberg, peace, you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Marion Anderson, listen here. I cannot.
Chanel said, I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm here for it anyway. It's just
that's all right. That's what we want.
What it's going to be is unadulterated Luqman Nation. That's what it is. Still Luqman Nation.
Still Luqman Nation. Always Luqman Nation. So, okay, Lisa, late, but okay. I guess Bella was keeping you a bit, so that's all right.
I don't know who the clowns are, but Lisa, I have a very low intolerance for clowns and jokers too. So I know what you mean.
What's going on, Stasha? Good to see you. All right, listen. I cannot believe we are actually talking about Omarosa Manigault Starling. I can't believe I just said that woman's name in any context. But I mean, yeah. So I had to take a sip of tea because this is just crazy.
Well, because this is some tea here.
It is.
Yeah.
So if you don't remember, Omarosa, she was Trump's
Black Czar.
I guess.
That's what I call it. She was the Black Czar.
Pretty much, Donald Trump gave her an office in a closet in the White House somewhere off the hallway. And and instead of this Black woman using her entree into the Trump administration to do anything for Black people, of course she went out for self. And I mean, that wasn't a surprise.
Omarosa.
Right? I keep saying at this.
But
if anybody had ever watched that season of The Apprentice with her on it,
which I
where she won. Now, I watched the first 2 seasons of The Apprentice. And I liked it. It was a pretty good show until that season with Omarosa, and I think the season after that, where they had the other Black contestant. That's how few Black contestants they had.
Oh, wow.
Where it's like that Black contestant, the Black contestant that Omarosa stole the competition from, and then the season with the other Black.
So sort of like what Trump's administration wound up becoming.
Exactly what his entire professional life is. So
sprinkles.
Exactly. Chocolate sprinkles, just a few. So if anybody had watched that season of The Apprentice with Omarosa on it, you could see how conniving, and I don't say that in a way to disparage her as a Black woman. I don't want people to go down that road. She really was just conniving and dirty dealing, and was truly underhanded in stealing that competition from the brother. Mm-hmm. And she was unapologetic about it too. So if anybody watched that, they would know the kind of person she was, right? So they wouldn't have been surprised when she got appointed to whatever it was Trump appointed her to. And she ain't do nothing for Black people, but people were surprised. And remember, she resigned. I think was she fired or did she
It depends
quit?
who you ask, because first of all, she got that position because when Trump became president, he was trying to court the Black voters away from the Democratic Party. Got up there and say, okay, I'm going to it was supposed to be this so-called Marshall Plan for Black America. You know how they do us. So Trump said,
opportunity zones.
Opportunity
That's
zone.
What it
was. Opportunity zone. So Omarosa was supposed to head this up, which I don't know what qualified her to do that, but but Donald Trump created this because this didn't exist. Mm-hmm. He created an office for her, like a title and everything. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so look, typical, man. I mean, she got in there. This was supposed to be her thing. Like I said, I don't understand what qualified her, except that she was part of Trump's team. Mm-hmm. Like this is the patronage part.
Right. She was one of his sycophants.
Right. And so she gets in there, and she throws a wedding at the White House that was unauthorized.
Yes.
And then it was a big thing about that. Then there was reports about her and Kelly, who was the chief of staff at the time, bumping heads, and so anyway, she from what I gathered, she just forgot her place, and Kelly was trying to remind her what her place was.
Right, former General Kelly.
Former General Kelly, and he was trying to remind her that your office is here in the closet, and you got it, and you can't keep on going back there because it was news reports that she was just walking back into the West Wing or wherever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I remember that.
Right,
now.
At will.
Yeah.
And the white folks they got mad. She walked like she owned it. You know how they. So anyway. So she goes and she throws a party, her wedding reception or whatever at the White House, I believe that was. and didn't get permission to do that.
Yeah.
And so it was a whole bunch of blow up. Then to make matters worse, then she writes this book.
Ooh, the book
spilling
was
the tea
trash.
on, you know, what was happening behind the scenes of Trump, which everybody who knows the Trump administration, that's a no-no.
Yeah, you don't tell Trump's business. Right. So that's the long and short. That's catching you up to the Omarosa legacy if you forgot all of the drama that was behind her. Well, look here. So this is the interesting thing about Omarosa, why we're even bringing her up. Because, let's see, where's the headline? Come on now. There we go.
Yep.
The Department of Justice under the Biden administration wants Omarosa to pay $61,500. Not now, but right now. Now, this is it's being reported in Politico also, but the Politico story is just not as funny as this one. So we chose News One. The former Trump advisor turned White House snitch owes bigly, but is it fair? That's why we're talking about this. Not because we have any opinion one way or another about whether Omarosa actually owes this money. I don't care.
I don't care. I mean, everybody's like, hey, Biden, baby, I got your money. Don't you worry. Hey. And she hates that.
And she just you're walking down the street behind her.
Right.
Hey, Biden, baby, I got your money.
Don't you?
She probably turn and cut you.
Oh, man.
But anyway, listen, like I said, the point is not whether Omarosa actually owes the money. According to the Department of Justice that started this lawsuit against her under the Trump administration after she released this book, they claim that they're suing her because she didn't disclose some financial information that was required by all White House staffers when they leave their positions. And as a penalty, she would have to pay $50,000. Now, the lawsuit was filed back in 2019. And also, the Trump administration claimed, the Department of Justice under the Trump administration claimed that she didn't, fully fill out her exit interview forms or whatever it is. And I don't understand exit interviews. They make no sense to me. I'm leaving this job. I'm leaving this job. Do you really want a good Yelp interview from me about how you treated me?
I mean, it's like throwing salt in the open wound.
That's ridiculous. I mean, and if I don't take the exit interview, what are you going to do? Fire me? I'm leaving.
Right. And
if I take the exit interview, and tell you all the reasons I hate you and want to leave, what you going to do with that? So it's the reasons they're suing her. The Trump administration, the Department of Justice under the Trump administration, were suing her. Absolutely ridiculous. But we know that Trump and his minions are petty people. The interesting thing is the Biden administration, the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, is continuing to pursue the lawsuit. And they are serious about getting this money from this woman. Now, again, we have no position on whether or not she actually did any of those things, if she didn't fill out her paperwork or if she didn't disclose any information. Our position is, Abdus, that, when Biden came into office, he made a big old deal about not staying in the past as far as pursuing criminal charges against Donald Trump, not pursuing criminal charges against Trump's cabinet members and his sycophants. And we know how the Democratic Party didn't even really bother to go after Trump in that impeachment with those bogus charges, because I mean they really could have got him on what is the profiting off of private businesses during the presidency. I forget the technical term for that.
Right.
But
this was supposed to be a more after the turmoil of the Trump administration.
Right.
Biden was presenting himself like the more enlightened
Right.
You know, we saw him go to church,
returning to decency,
right? Return to decency and all that stuff.
Civility.
You know? Exactly.
So what happened to the decency and civility of going after Omarosa for this $61,000?
Well, what happened to the Christian principle of forgiveness?
I
mean, because we saw him go to church. I mean, you know, he takes us to church with him. He comes back. He did the somber thing, and we're gonna talk about that. About he's been there, somber face about the marking the milestones of how many people died from COVID, and he wants to present a more compassionate administration.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, not that look. Not that I have any special love for Omarosa, but I feel that they were, and you feel that they were bigger fish to fry than to go after,
And that's part of the issue with this story. It's like, of all the people the Biden administration would go after, would sick the Department of Justice on, who were involved in the Trump administration, even in a tertiary, small or short period of time. Omarosa, she's the one you're gonna go after, the one who didn't do anything, didn't have any impact on anybody, who didn't, Ricky said, remember when April Ryan told that lie about being assaulted?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, look, we're not trying to make Omarosa a martyr here.
Right.
I mean, because she bears responsibility for her role in all of this mess. And she was messy. She was. But really, should the Department of Justice be going after her for this business when, like you said, there are bigger fish to fry? And it seems to me that we're in sort of a conundrum here. Because while, yes, Chanel, this does seem kind of anti-Black of the Biden administration and the Justice Department, especially with all, the Black folks he's got up in his cabinet that we were supposed to be impressed with, the neoliberal imperialist warmongers that they all are. But they Black though, ski-wee. But how do we, like, is this a situation where we have to choose between calling out the kind of clear hypocrisy of the DOJ in going after Omarosa like this, and not going after a whole lot of other folks? Well, nobody else in the former Trump administration that we can see who he hasn't pardoned, right? But also on the other side of this, is this just like a case of, look, this is the bed you made when you got in bed with these people, so you got to lay in the bed you made, right? I mean, you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. You knew how trashy that man was when you hitched your wagon to him, Omarosa. So, I mean, I don't know what you thought he was going to do to you after you wrote that book. Of course he was going to sue you. And if the next administration continues to pursue that, I don't know. What do I say? I'm torn. I think.
Well, my point is that I don't blame Omarosa. I mean, the whole, she's an opportunist. Washington's full of opportunists, So I mean, so I'm not going to say that she's any more that she's less than anybody else who are going after opportunities. I mean, that the whole cesspool over there, those folks are a bunch of opportunities. They mainly go there and get office so they can make more money. My whole thing about this is the fact that if the DOJ wants to spend so much time with that, I'm waiting for a Capitol rioter to have to pay something.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the DOJ to actually make, who's going to pay for the windows that was busted?
Well, that's going to be us. That's going to be.
But my point being is that you want to make a big deal about somebody who didn't fill out a termination report, or somebody who didn't fill out a financial disclosure on some technicality. But who's going to pay for all of the damage of smearing feces and stuff on the wall of the Capitol? Who's going? So I would feel better if the Biden administration would have stepped up and said, "Hey, look, we're not going to That administration is done. We're not going to concentrate on that. What we're going to concentrate for is on the rioters and the insurrectionists that destroyed, that helped deface the Capitol and change the way of how we relate to the Capitol building. Right now, you got permanent fencing up there.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I want somebody to dig in Buffalo Head's pocket. I want them to, the QAnon shaman. I want to dig into the Proud Boys pocket. I want them to dig into all of these, what was the other one? The
Oath Keepers.
The Oath Keepers. I want
the
them,
3%ers.
all of them. I want the DOG to list them and say, you know what, you owe for this, you owe for that. If you can put Omarosa on blast, then the DOJ should be up there and be like, okay, but look, we can get more money from them
because
because Omarosa broke. She done spent that. So but that's what it should be.
That's a great point. That's a great point because here's the thing. If we believe this whole thing about Joseph Biden being better than Trump, then you're right. Biden would have said to the DOJ, look, let that lawsuit go.
Because it's his DOJ now.
It's his DOJ. Exactly. I don't care who is the head of the DOJ. It's his. It's under his authority.
Right.
He can tell the DOJ, look, let that thing go. Well, we're not. This administration is not going to continue to pursue that. But see, when you have a new administration that's supposed to be so much better than the last one, who just opened a detention center for migrant children,
right,
in the same site that the Trump administration had a detention center for migrant children, and this dude is supposed to be so much better than the last guy. It's not a surprise that the Biden administration is just as petty and anti-Black and just as boorish as the Trump administration was. This is
right. I agree.
It's just, and as far as Omarosa is concerned, politically it is difficult. And I mean, let's just be real. Omarosa is one of those folks who we understand are not about liberation. They're not about, she's not about doing anything for Black folks, but she never pretended to be.
Right.
But that does not mean that it is ever okay to let the system off the hook when the system makes it clear that they don't have a problem going after easy targets like Omarosa, and they would rather spend their time and their resources on people like her, but not address the bigger issues of all their white supremacist friends who they let shit in the Capitol.
But this is where the hypocrisy comes in at for me. The hypocrisy comes in at is that we heard a lot of praise for Black women when it came to we heard the Stacey Abrams, we heard all this praise that we wouldn't have got this if it wasn't for Black women. Black women saved us. Black women got us to where we at. Thank God, black girl magic and all this stuff. And the same person that Biden's DOJ is beating up on is a Black woman. Now forget about her politics. Let's put the politics aside for a minute. We have just heard for the last year why Georgia was being why Black women was organizing in Georgia, when Black women was organizing to keep pedophiles out of office, like my man Ray, whatever. Well, he ain't my man, but the dude Ray that was running for
Roy Moore.
Roy Moore. Black women stopped his ass. Black women, Stacey Abrams, the damn sure she hijacked the state and turned it blue with the help of other Black women. I mean, we heard all of this stuff, and rightfully so. And Biden got up there. Oh, Black women! Oh my God! Oh, I never thought I'd be president. Oh, thank God for Black women. Oh, I owe you. And then here, your DOJ. Now, like I said, forget our politics. But then this is where these other Black women, the ones that's up in there, Kamala Harris. This would be a great time for her to step forward and be like, hey, look, you know what? Black women saved the Democratic Party.
Right.
So guess what? We can pardon one of our own.
But again, that's just a whole nother level of the thing right there.
We can pardon one of our own.
Again, Kamala Harris and these other folks, these Black folks in Biden's cabinet are just as opportunistic as Omarosa is. This is why nobody is coming to her defense. Kamala Harris don't care about Omarosa, just like she don't care about us.
Yeah, I was
gonna and say, y'all, yeah. Kamala Harris.
Oh, we'll find out. We'll see. Yep. Trust me.
It's early still. Y'all gonna see.
As Malcolm said, time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah, but all these other women in the cabinet, these people don't care about other. So nobody in the Biden administration, none of these women, none of these Black women are coming to the defense of Omarosa, like you said, not because of her politics, because all of these people are opportunistic. And I think that was a great point. This is a great example of the kinds of people who really are in Biden's cabinet.
Exactly.
They are just as sycophantic to Biden as Trump's cabinet was to him. They are individualistic. They believe in American exceptionalism. And if you were on fire, they wouldn't spit on you to put you out as long as there is some money in it for them not to do it.
And they would not even use Flint water to put you out. That's how bad it is. They wouldn't even use Flint water to put you out.
I'm so glad you brought up Flint. So, look, Flint is a I was thinking a lot about Flint this past week because of obviously what's going on in Texas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you are not aware what was going on in Texas, Texas just suffered an enormous power outage, right? For the past, a week maybe, where millions of people in Texas were without power in a weather event that can only be attributed to climate change, but folks who don't believe climate change is real don't want to call it that.
Right.
But they don't have to call it that. The Arctic storm that Texas hadn't seen the likes of, the kind of temperatures, not even the storm, it hadn't been that cold in Texas since like 1958.
Yeah, he says the record, historic cold,
Yeah, so this Arctic storm swept through Texas because Texas is disconnected basically from the rest of the power grid, and people don't understand that there is no one national power grid.
No, it's not. No,
the power grid in this country is basically in three sections. There's the
eastern, you got the middle, and you got the western.
Right, and then there's four sections,
right.
And then there's Texas, like all by itself. And for years, Texans have been like, well, we don't want federal oversight. We don't want the federal government regulating our energy, blah, blah, blah. We want more competition. And that drives down prices so people can choose where they get their power from. And for a while, that was kind of beneficial because Texas was able to, without regulations from the government, build somewhat of a renewable energy infrastructure. I think in the United States, they have the largest share of wind power.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, though. Because there are no regulations, because there's no oversight, they didn't maintain any of that stuff. They didn't maintain it. They didn't expand it. They didn't retrofit it to the growth of the population. They didn't upgrade the infrastructure to provide for backups in case of emergencies because they're used to the weather being pretty. But scientists, environmentalists, meteorologists, even people within the energy community in Texas have been warning that something like this would happen, and the infrastructure wasn't prepared. So what happened?
They wasn't prepared. They weren't prepared.
They were not prepared. And aside from millions of people in Texas being without power for about a week in the worst Arctic storm that the state has seen in decades, where I think the number now is up to 50 people have died as a direct result of the storm. Now the power has slowly come back on in most places. Now 3 million Texans are under a boil water warning because, when there's no power, there's no water.
Right.
Right. So, and of course, this caused me to think of Flint. Now, the 3 million is bad, but this is actually an improvement because earlier it was like 12 million Texans. Earlier this week, it was like 12 million Texans didn't have water. But this, of course, caused me to think of Flint, right? Because what happened in Texas is the result of, yes, greed, and yes, mostly conservative politicians pushing this states' rights bullshit and, you know, not wanting to
states' rights only right. The states' rights only mean that we want to privatize everything.
That's what
keep more and keep the money in our pocket.
Exactly. That's what this is really
That's
about.
all it's about.
It's about neoliberalism. It's about shortcuts, you know, taking shortcuts to make money. It's about, you know, rampant privatization. You know, but it's also about classism. It's also very much about classism because you've got people who vote for these politicians, right? Who believe this stuff. And a lot of these people are able to afford a generator for a backup energy source, who have the money to pay for, like, you know, $1,000, $5,000, $16,000 power bills if their electricity was still on during the storm, because that's how much the rates went up, because the demand for energy went up in the midst of this storm. But I mean, and that's cool if you got it. But what about all the people who didn't want this? What about all of the poor working class folks in Texas who would have loved for somebody in the government to have told these authorities in Texas, no, you have to upgrade your infrastructure to these standards so that your citizens, your most vulnerable citizens, will not be left in the cold without power and left without water. So it's like you still got politicians like Ted Cruz and Rick Perry. You know, Ted Cruz.
Run, Ted, run.
Yeah, I got to give you this article because this is actually, I know he doesn't mean it. He didn't mean it to be funny, but it's hilarious to me.
What'd he say?
Because Ted Cruz and his wife escaped the storm last week. They took a trip to Cancun. But before they took a trip to Cancun, Heidi Cruz texted all of their neighbors and friends and invited them to come to Cancun with them to this nice hotel with lots of security. And you know, look, it's our house is freezing. That's what she texted. Our house is freezing. If anybody wants to go to Cancun with us, you're welcome to come. $300 a night, great security, but nobody responded. So then I think she got the idea that people were like, Heifer, are you serious?
Right, exactly.
This is in the middle of the power outage. People were freezing to death. You know, nobody responded. So then she follows up with another tweet. Well, you know, at least we have a gas stove so we can heat the water, the little bit that there is. We're happy to help. Nobody responded to that tweet either. And you know what happened? Somebody who now hates the Cruzes, who were their former friends, gave her text to the New York Times. So the New York Times published.
That's a public service.
That's a public service, right there. So the New York Times published her text, and that's where we got the story from. And now Heidi Cruz is pretty pissed that her texts about the family's controversial Cancun trip were leaked. She's pissed that people were appalled that she and her rat bastard husband ran away from the catastrophe that happened in Texas so they could be warm, and then blamed it on their kids. He blamed it on their children, saying, well, you know, I was just trying to be a good dad to my kids because they were complaining that they wanted to go. And So Heidi is mad, and Ted is mad too.
Right.
That people leaked his selfish ass wife's tweets. But these are the kinds of politicians that folks have been voting for in Texas for a long time. A long time. And Abdus, I don't have any sympathy for those people who voted for those folks. I know that sounds mean. I know that sounds cruel. But honestly, you knew who Ted Cruz was. You knew how hateful that man was.
I keep having this vision of Rick Perry laying on a massage table somewhere where it's warm, but it's with some native women massaging his back on the phone with some news organization talking about we Texans would rather struggle and freeze as opposed to allow the government to tell us what to do with our utility. Oh yeah, right there. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that's that. Yeah. I keep having an image in my head, right? But this is where these people are.
That is so terrible.
I do not have, I know it's not right. You know who I do have sympathy for?
Who?
I have sympathy for the poor black people of Texas. Now, people might say, oh, but that's racist. Look, let me tell you something. The poor black people of Texas, anybody who knows, who lived in Texas or been down in Texas and seen how poor black people are treated in Texas. I'm not talking about just the obvious racism 101. I'm talking about stories that came out about these oil companies and how how black people in a lot of these areas have the highest rates of cancer. Let's go to Houston in the 3rd Ward and all these other where there's perpetual poverty. And you had governor after governor, senator after senator that didn't want to take the federal government's funds for the ACA.
Right.
They didn't want any help from the federal because after all, and the people who are most affected by their decisions are always the folks at the bottom, which are poor, brown, and Latinx people who are going through all this. So they don't have a choice. See, and this is the problem. This is why I have sympathy for them. They didn't have a choice. No, it was the gun toting. It was the ones that, Texas Freedom. It was all of those ones.
Don't tread on me.
Right. It was all of those ones who were okay. It was okay when other folks was being denied this stuff. It was okay. But see, now the food lines are integrated.
Oh, come on now.
You know what I mean? The food lines are integrated.
So is the water line, apparently.
The water line is integrated. We all in words now. You know what I'm saying? So this is the thing. So now all of a sudden now it's like, well, how is it possible that Ted Cruz left us in our crisis? They never was with you.
Come on.
They never was with you.
Never.
But what they did was they played the game of racial division, class division, so that this is what you got. You don't got no electricity because you bought into the hype. You bought into the whole thing. They're trying to take your job. You bought into the thing about, they're coming over the border to rape your women. You bought into the thing that, they're taking your jobs. They're doing this and they're doing that. While at the meantime, they're turning everything over to private interests. They're turning all this over. They're taking the bribe. They're taking the grift. And then you want to know why he goes to Cancun? He was never with you.
As funny as the thing about Rick Perry was, he actually did say in an interview that, Texans would rather.
That's what he said.
Yeah. Well, what did he say?
He said Texans would rather freeze and struggle.
Right.
And he said to allow the federal government to come in and get involved in their business. Basically the whole state rights thing.
Right.
About, we're going to keep slavery before the federal government tell us to get rid of a slave.
Because that's our way of life. That's where that states rights argument came from. But you see, Rick Perry is one of those people, like I said, who can buy a couple generators as backup energy. And he didn't lose any power.
He was in his room drinking hot cocoa.
He probably
with the fireplace going on the phone with the Associated Press.
That's it. So if people understand the serious class implications of neoliberal policies and the privatization of public services, that people with little $5 over breakfast money, most of y'all might be all right, but let something happen. Let something like COVID happen. And all of a sudden you lose your job too, and your income isn't replaced. And then you can't put food on the table. Those people who you voted for who were so pro-business and pro-states' rights and so pro-small government and so pro scaling back regulations so that entrepreneurs and small businesses can make more money, you will quickly see that they were never on your side, because when you no longer are able to profit from this system, when something befalls you, then you are going to be treated just like the rest of us have been treated.
Exactly.
This is that we have to look at the serious class implications of the way these natural disasters are capitalized on by these politicians that folks keep voting for. And like you said, it's not the people who didn't want this,
right,
that we need to struggle for. But look, we need to struggle for the folks who don't know any better too, because they'll benefit as well. But I'm not going to lose any sleep if they don't get it.
Well, I want to know and see, this is the thing, because, all right, so they did what they did. I want to know if it's going to cost Ted Cruz his job.
You know it's not going to cost Ted Cruz his job.
If it's going to cost Rick Perry his job.
He isn't governor anymore.
Well, okay. All right. Well, all right. But still, will this stop people from listening to his ass?
No, whatever board he's sitting on, he's going to stay on it.
Now, this is the thing, is that the last time Ted Cruz was up and he ran against the guy who was speaking Spanish.
the Spanish guy who wasn't Spanish
Irish
Beto
guy.
O'Rourke.
Yeah, Beto O'Rourke. Right.
Spanish Irish guy.
Now, everybody thought that O'Rourke was going to beat him. And it did for a minute.
Almost, yeah.
It did but Ted Cruz played, he had that one card left. And he had the Joker card, because that's who came out for him, the Jokers. So the Jokers came out, got him in there. Everybody thought that Ted Cruz was going to lose that. I'm not so sure that Ted Cruz is going to. He just got a couple years left on his term. I don't know how long he's been there, but let me tell you something. I'm not so sure that Ted Cruz is going to suffer from this.
Oh wait, that's not what I meant to show.
I'm not so sure that Ted Cruz is going to suffer from this, because see, once the lights come back on, once they, human beings and Americans especially have a very short memory. So once the heat comes back on, once there's going to be some kind of semblance of normalcy, once we get into spring, people won't forget about Ted Cruz and his family. They're going to forget about Daddy Knows Best. They're going to forget about what he did. And see, and it would be sad if that's the case. But considering how easily manipulated that this voting block is, by all you got to do is just play the class and race card with these people, and they'll forget all about that Ted Cruz left them freezing their asses off down until why he went to Cancun.
Precisely. I was showing Ricky's comment. She said that man's name is Robert. Beto O'Rourke's name is not Beto. It's Robert.
Oh, Robert. Okay.
It's Robert. So yeah, but
he spoke that Spanish with that Irish brogue.
Oh yeah, because he's like, this is what I call. This is what my Spanish friends call. Man, oh come on. Anyway, why did this make me think of Flint? Aside from the obvious connections to the privatization of public utilities and the way people in Flint profited, did what they did to make some money, to save a buck, right? All right, so this is why this is the other end of the spectrum. Like you said, Ted Cruz probably isn't going to suffer.
He's not going to suffer.
He's not going to. I don't think Ted Cruz is up for re-election in this midterm. I think he's up for re-election in 2024.
They're not going, and this is but I don't think that Ted Cruz is going to suffer as long as it's this smoldering anger with what happened with Trump.
I think that's a good point. I think you're right.
Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, he screwed us, but we ain't going, but we still got to we still got to, the country is divided into camps now. Cruz is going to benefit from that.
That's true. I think you're right. I think I agree with that. And when we look at the issue of, is Cruz going to pay? Is Rick Perry, who I think somebody mentioned owned one of the energy companies down there. So of course, you had the heads of these energy companies on a phone call, I think, laughing about how they hit the jackpot with this Arctic storm.
Disaster capitalism. once again, and we talked about that, disaster capitalism. Look at, some of you guys who've been with us for a while, y'all know, but do you want some of you who are just now, seeing what we do? Go back to some of our older shows, and we talk a lot about disaster capitalism and neoliberalism and how that all ties together.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? We may revise that series.
It's always worth talking
about. We
may
revise that series. I think I think it's worth explaining that again so that people understand what neoliberalism is and how it affects all of us. And why Republicans and Democrats are neoliberals. It's, anyway, but, the same reason Ted Cruz and Rick Perry and the Republican politicians down in Texas who allowed this mess to happen, none of them are going to suffer any consequences for the same reason that folks in Flint who are responsible for the Flint water crisis aren't really going to suffer any consequences either. Now, after all of these years, people are finally being charged with something. If you read this headline, you're like, yes, these Bama's going to prison. Finally, yes.
Right.
No. Even though the group of people involved in the Flint water disaster face 42 counts, most of them are kind of low-level charges, from perjury to misconduct in office to involuntary manslaughter. You want to see what the charges are? Jared Argan, 1 count of perjury. It's a 15-year felony. I don't think he's going to prison. Gerald Ambrose, 5 counts of misconduct, each a 5-year felony and or a $10,000 fine. He'll probably opt for the $10,000 fine and pay it. Richard Bayard, 1 count of perjury, 15-year felony, 1 count of official misconduct, 1 count of obstruction of justice, 1 count of extortion. Probably not going to see a whole lot of prison time, if any. Howard Croft, 2 counts of willful neglect, each a 1-year misdemeanor or $1,000 fine.
Now, this is the one right here who's going, the next one, Darnell Early.
Darnell Early.
He's the one that's going to take the fall.
Yep. You know why?
He is black. He is black. He is that black president in the movies when the world comes to the end and the black president is in charge.
Yep. And you know what? I agree. I think if anybody actually serves any real prison time, is going to be Darnell Early. 3 counts of misconduct in office, each a 5-year felony or $10,000 fine. Nicholas Lynn, these kind of things. These are all they're federal charges, but they're misdemeanor federal charges. So the likelihood
Darnell Early is the reason why I say that he's going to be the one that they're going to really tax his ass, because he's the one that actually made the decision to change the water supply.
Exactly. And
so they're gonna be whooping on that ass.
Yeah, they are. So I'm looking through here, and I don't see Rick Schneider's name on this list, huh? I mean, oh no, I'm sorry. Yes, he is. He's facing 2 counts of willful neglect, both misdemeanors.
Willful neglect,
right? Both carry a maximum sentence of 1 year in prison and a fine up to $1,000.
So we know that ain't nothing happening to him.
Y'all,
slap on the wrist, that's it.
Listen to me. Nothing is going to happen to most of those folks in Flint. I'll be surprised if anything happens to anybody beyond a fine, to anybody other than what's his name? Darnell Early. It is what we are seeing in Flint is exactly what we're seeing in Texas, and interestingly, it's exactly what we're seeing in places like Venezuela and Iran, and Bolivia, and all over the continent of Africa, where the people are forced to live under harsh sanctions imposed by the United States government. They claim they're waging the sanctions against the government, right? but the sanctions cause people not to be able to receive food, medicine, equipment, instruments, what things that they need to live. So the people suffer, and the people are made to suffer economic consequences. Mm-hmm. The government is basically looted by the United States, and then the people who are in collusion with the United States make off like fat cats. That's what's happened. That's what happened in Flint. So then, and that's what happened in Texas. Same thing happened in Venezuela, and it's all the same system. It's just either internationally or domestically. And
they all have one thing in common. The major thing in common is the majority of the sufferers are people of color. So you got the same cast of characters. Mm-hmm. This stuff ain't happening in France. This stuff ain't happening in Germany. It's not happening in Canada. It's not happening in Australia. It's not even anywhere where there's a majority of white people. It ain't in New Zealand. It ain't down there in wherever you find white folks in charge. Wherever you find the government where white folks is in charge, you don't hear this type of shit. You don't hear these stories. No, the world is the majority of the sufferers that are going through all of these economic sanctions that someone talked about here and abroad are mainly the people of color. Yeah, you have collateral damage. Well, what about the poor whites here and poor whites there? Well, that's the collateral damage of white supremacy. So the thing of it is, but they do not outnumber the people of color all over the globe who are finding who are suffering violence from all different phases. I mean, we were just talking about in Nigeria how the people in Niger Delta to have just gotten some redress is not enough, but the environmental violence that was done by these oil companies, the fact that these oil companies, because you and I talked about it, have even encouraged vandalism by some of the people there. They encourage these oil spills. They encourage after they left, so they can make money to clean it up, which they haven't done yet. Right. They encourage the insurgencies of Boko Haram, snatching all these African kids that's being snatched out of school and stuff. They are being paid for this. They are, the destabilization from AFRICOM, which we talked about. All of these things serve a purpose. Now they got an investigation against the Israeli who made $100 billion in the Congo. Right. Everybody else there lives off of 25 cents a day. Right. But he gets $100 billion. So all of these are the same, Jackie, the same cast of characters that got the world got the world by a string, man, where it's mostly people of color that is the victims of this global. Now we say the United States government, and in actuality, yes, they're the face of it, and Britain's the face of it, and France, because we have to remember France still has a direct exploitative relationship with their former colonies. That's true. I mean, they bad. We're gonna talk about France now, but let me tell you, France left NATO so they don't have to be hemmed in by by any type of agreement that is within NATO. France ain't part of NATO anymore, so I don't know if y'all knew that. But this is the thing. So now it's to the point where, yeah, the United States is the face of this, along with Britain and everybody else. But it is really the global economic financial institutions that have been unleashed on the poorer parts of the world. The corporatocracy that's global, that don't have any respect for borders or nation states. Exactly. Nation states don't exist with these people. Right. So and not just nation states. States in the United States don't mean nothing to these people. They don't. The capitalist system doesn't recognize borders. Doesn't recognize borders. No, I mean, because you know why? You know what borders are to them? It's in the computer. It's blips on the computer where they can transfer money over here and transfer money over there, and everything is digital. So, there's no border, there's no walls you can build to stop digital transactions, but that's all it is now. Right. But you know what? Even if they were, they would ensure that they could continue to do their business across borders because they always have. Right. And this is the part of
And it's so hard, I think, sometimes to make these connections to things that happen in places like Texas and Flint and connect them to the international results or outcomes of imperialism. Because the same way these imperialist forces, because remember, imperialism is the highest expression of capitalism. It's capitalism gone global. That's what imperialism is. So when these imperialist forces send in a force to coup a democratically elected leader.
Yeah, these private like Blackwater and
right. Or they fund Boko Haram, or they kill a leader with a high-powered remote-controlled gun, guided by another country. Whoever pays for those crimes?
Nobody.
The
people pays for them. And that's the thing.
Exactly.
The people pay.
Pay for them. All of those Blackwater agents. Who went to prison? Out of those Blackwater agents. All of these these folks who were trained by in the U.S. School of the Panamas, and a training ground for coup forces that the United States ran. Whoever went to prison among those people? But they were put in place in different countries, and they carried out their actions in different countries so that the imperialist forces could make some money, could make enormous profits off of refusing access to resources to the people that the resources actually belong to. How is that different from what's being done in Texas? How is that different from what's being done in Flint? Because ain't nobody going to prison in Texas. Those people have gotten even more wealthy, the energy company owners. And in Flint, most of those people aren't going to see a day in prison. I'll be surprised if they do. And if they do, it won't be for that long.
And the contempt that they have for the people, which alone, and I've said this in one of the pieces that I wrote, is that if it was a different time and space, they would have lost their heads in the town square. Because the contempt that they have for these people to not only take them through this, but and they're doing it in Flint. This is how you know that it's the same game being played, because the extortion, because that's all it is. The extortion in Texas of making them pay thousands of dollars in utility bills, they're doing it to the people in Flint. People in Flint have to pay thousands of dollars in water bills, and they're cutting them off, making you making you pay for making you pay for them making you sick.
Exactly.
So now my kids got lead poisoning. My dog died because he was full of lead. I'm going crazy and beating my wife because I'm full of lead. My wife is going crazy. And then now I got to pay for that. So this is the extortion. That alone, that shows you how that just shows you the contempt that they have for us. Because that alone, what decent human being would, if you had any shred of decency, you would say, damn, I done poisoned the whole community with lead. I done did it. I done let the power grid go out. I mean, people have frozen their homes and all this stuff. And guess what? But I'm still going to make them pay.
I'm going to make them pay.
That is a sociopathic behavior, and that's who we have ruling over us. Sociopaths.
Exactly. Capitalist, imperialist, sociopaths. So, that's what we were looking at this week, as far as news stories are concerned. And absolutely right, Goddess. Abolition now. But see, we can't get to abolition until we politically educate the people. And political education of our people is kind of difficult because people are just, like you said at the top of the show, people are swayed by personalities who say crazy stuff and who don't have any kind of real ideology. And if they do have an ideology, it's really weird, or their ideology is geared toward propping up capitalism. A whole lot of musicians, especially hip hop, rap artists today, are very capitalist in their I can't even call it ideology.
No, I know in their expression.
Yes. They're very they perpetuate whatever expression of capitalism they most identify with.
Or we could say that they preach the gospel materialism.
That's perfect.
Right.
That's exactly what they do. So, we're in our mid-50s. We will always say that. We're not even ashamed. We grew up during...
I mean, I love it. If y'all knew what I had to go through to get to the 50s, you would know why I don't look. I embrace this.
You talk about somebody proud to be in middle age.
If you knew what I had to go through growing up to get here, trust me.
Yeah, just not somewhere in my 20s. I wasn't even sure I was gonna make it to my 30s. Yeah.
I mean, they had bets against me too. Trust me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could never shame me for having this gray hair.
So, but we grew up during a time where our music was full of meaning. We grew up during the birth of hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to like start talking about hip hop as this, this one monolithic thing, because there were different kinds of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
There was party rap, there was party hip hop, there was, the love, the romantic stuff, and then there was the politically, socially conscious stuff.
Yeah, you had them, yeah.
Which, we didn't even grow up together.
Right.
Didn't even grow up in the same state. We didn't meet each other until 2013. I lived in DC. He lived in New Jersey. But we found out that we listened to pretty much the same hip hop artists. Eric B. and Rakim, BDP, and Public Enemy, KRS-One.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. Poor Righteous Teachers.
Yep.
Thank you, Zulu Nation.
Zulu Nation, you got that.
You understand? A Queen Latifah.
Yeah.
What
was the other one I used to love too? Like Diggable Planets.
Yes, Diggable Planets.
And there was another one too that had. Oh man, I feel ashamed that I can't even remember their name. But they was the one where the brothers used to always say, "This is protected by the red, the black, and the green." Remember? This is protected by the red, the black, and the green.
Tribe Called Quest. Thank you, Phil.
Brand new.
Brand new. Oh, that's the kind of stuff we listen to. We love the party stuff. We love the love stuff. But we were seriously, deeply immersed in that early hip hop conscious culture, because I think we understood that we were politically oriented maybe before we even realized we were.
I mean, you know, when you're young, you get attracted to certain things. You don't know why.
Right.
You don't know why. And we've said this before, like in high school and stuff. A lot of times, you like, because I wasn't part of the cool kids. I was part of the group that, that liked to study and stuff like that. I guess people call them nerds, but, but I was different. I wasn't the type of nerd you picked on, I was, so that I was, people knew my lane. They respected me in my lane. I wasn't that type of nerd. You ain't pouring no milk on my head. But at the same time, I like what I like, and I was able to relate to the cool guys. I was able to relate to the tough guys and all that stuff. And the same with you. But the thing of it is that, if there was something innate in us that we was like, man, why I like watching documentaries? Why I like this?
Right.
And why is it that, but see, that's just the way that I believe the universe works, is the fact that some of us are groomed to do this. I mean, I'm sure when people like Fred Hampton and El Haj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, and all of them. I mean, all of us could have been doing something else.
Yeah.
And like we said before, I mean, Martin Luther King could have just remained a preacher at Ebenezer Baptist Church,
and he would have had a nice, cushy, comfortable life had he done that.
Exactly. And so, but there's forces out there. You define what the force is for you, but there's forces out there. I believe the universe is about justice. The universe is about balance, in my view. Mm-hmm. And I believe that when there's things out of balance, the universe does things that seeks to correct the imbalances. And we play a part of that because we are part of the universe. So I believe that there are certain souls and certain things, that people that are chosen when the universe is doing what it can to correct these imbalances. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying I'm part of that. I don't know. But all I know is that we all play a part. and everything. And there's a reason why Harriet Tubman did what she did. There's a reason why, John Brown, who didn't have to risk anything, why John Brown risked his life and his sons risked their life living in a country that is a white supremacist country. They didn't have to risk anything. So it's those type of things that's like, hey, look, why is it like that? And then we look as kids and we say, man, why is it that, we get rejected by this and that and the other? Well, for one thing, most kids are stupid. But on the other, but on the other hand, though, what we look at as rejection a lot of times was just the universe preparing us for what our mission is going to be later on. So you can't be a leader if you're being always a follower. So sometimes the followers have to reject you because you was chosen by the universe to be a leader. And so a leader can't be a sheep or, So this is my interpretation of things. So as I've gotten older, I realized that when my schoolmates, didn't, when I was odd to them or this and that and the other, it wasn't nothing wrong with me, and it wasn't nothing wrong with them. This is just the way that the universe is doing what it does in order to correct the imbalances, and some of us just have that part to play, whatever role that the universe assigns to us.
Absolutely, I think you're absolutely right, and I think that in the same way, the universe tries to balance itself out by, shaping and molding people to, push things toward more balance. The universe also puts people together who have that it's grooming to do that at the exact right time. Now, you can call that the universe, you can call that God, you can call that whatever you want to call it, but we believe these forces operate outside of us. And so almost like we're on a chessboard a little bit. It's not like we're doing it against our will, but we never understand why we are drawn to different things in ways that, we may not be drawn to other things. Why are we talking about this?
Exactly.
Okay, so we belong to an organization called the Black Alliance for Peace. I'm sure you know that. We have said that before. And, we encourage you to check out the Black Alliance for Peace. But something happened last night that really, and this happens every once in a while. It's happening more and more frequently with me. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm noticing that these kinds of things happen that are so like intensely amazing and touch you in a way that lets you know, like, everything that you have experienced, you experienced it for a reason. And this might be just a window into letting you know, the universe letting you know that you're on the right track. Right. So this is what happened. And we can't tell you everything that happened because, because we don't, it was an internal meeting and we keep information in internal meetings internal. But we did have an orientation for Black Alliance for Peace last night. And we moderate the orientations. And we had scores of people. Scores. I mean, we were all just like blown away by how many people came into the organization last night. But here's the part that was amazing. At the end, we kept the chat open so people could connect with each other and, introduce each other and just talk. And that was such a cool, great time. Everybody loved it. But so many people, first of all, they were mostly young. I mean, 20s, 30s.
Oh, yeah.
That was just beautiful. And you said something that I thought was so great, that the very fact that there were so many young people coming into this organization, wanting to work with all these old heads, just completely destroys this myth that intergenerational organizing isn't successful. Exactly. I mean, that was just beautiful. But then the other thing was, so many of these folks said, as they were introducing themselves, I'm so glad I found this organization because I was starting to feel like I was weird, or I was by myself, or y'all make me feel like I'm not losing my mind. And, I've been in this bourgeois Black organization, the lone voice trying to talk about these things, and, want nobody hearing me. And here I am with all these people, and this is so dope. And I'm just like, damn, man, we are doing the right. Because how many times have we said to each other that at points in our lives before we even met, I felt like I was all by myself.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I felt like I was the only person who cared this much about politics and focused on racial issues and cared this much about Africa and, you know, wanted to understand more about Pan-Africanism and didn't have a problem questioning the white supremacy of this particular faith. That was one thing. So that was one really beautiful thing. The other really amazing thing was how many people said that they started checking out the Black Alliance for Peace because of the rapper No Name.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where what we said about the music we grew up listening to, this is where this comes in. Because see, we got too many musicians, too many artists who could be talented, who a lot are quite talented, who, you know, I don't have a problem with what people rap about. You rap about what you want. I actually happen to like the song WAP. I like it.
Yeah, a lot of people like it.
He does not. I like it. I don't care what you rap about, but if you...
I just said been there, done that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but if you recognize that you have a platform where you have access to millions of people and you could lead those people anywhere, and you don't lead those people to, I don't know, more education, greater knowledge, deeper knowledge, certainly you don't lead it to the liberation of your people, this is a problem. And this is why we were saying that the hip hop we listen to, this is why it had to be stopped.
Right.
Because what No Name did is what people like KRS-One and Public Enemy and X-Clan. That's who X-Clan. Yes.
I should never have forgotten them.
This is what those folks had. This is what they were on the path to doing. They were raising consciousness with their music. They were teaching history in their music. They were influencing a generation of young people who were seeing the system and its failings all around them, were making those connections. And those folks, those artists were, now I'm not saying they would have all become radicals and you know, that kind of thing, but there was that connection between what these kids were seeing in their communities, what the government and the system was and wasn't doing for them that they saw, and people becoming conscious and radicalized. So that had to stop. So this is why, you know, we have so much of this stuff that's played on the radio now. It's entertaining and it's fun, but it's mindless. It's nihilistic. It doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't guide you anywhere. It doesn't lead you to a greater consciousness.
And that was by design. You know, I mean, music is part of culture. And that's just the way it is. Music is part of culture. And I mean, we say that, oh, well, we don't know if they would have been conscious enough, but me and you did grow up along with other people that's in our era. We did grow up during the time when people were rocking the Malcolm X t-shirts. There was a resurgence of consciousness, especially during the 90s, when people were rocking the Africa medallions and Spike Lee's movie would Do the Right Thing and all that stuff. There was a return to consciousness. The RBG movement, which wound up being known as the Hotep movement, but that got its momentum during the 90s.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, so you started to, as silly as a lot of it might look now, looking back at some of it, but there was a return to an identity that we were defining. So you had young people, teenagers, those that when we were younger at that time, we were determining what our identity would be. And so what happened is that identity, we made records like Self-Destruction. The West Coast made came together and did their anti-violence song. Yeah, there was I don't Lisa Catlett might can let us know. But then you had the Tupac. Then you had when the gang truces was happening at that time, when a lot of us started to understand that it wasn't right for us to spill each other's blood like that. Then, because we know that this is the truth, people, because there is, and all of you have seen and heard about this story about how the powers that be in the music industry decided that they were going to disrupt this part of hip hop, elevate this gangster rap that was happening, and that, you know, and to once again stop the progress that we were doing. Now, folks sit back and say, well, you know, that sounds a little far-fetched. But now we found out that they flooded our neighborhoods with crack.
Right.
You know, they flooded our neighborhoods with guns. You know, so why not change the music?
I mean, that's a great point.
Yeah, why not change the music too?
That is a great point. Yeah. And honestly, I never thought about it like that. I mean, if the government will go so far as to flood our neighborhoods with crack and guns,
right,
in an effort to destroy the neighborhood, to destroy our communities, along with the policies, the neoliberal policies,
right,
the privatizing policies, and the cutting social programs, and all that kind of stuff that they did at the same time. Why is it far-fetched to think that they wouldn't completely control the kind of music that they allowed to be played on their airwaves? Of course they did. So, you know, understanding this history, it was, you know, so beautiful to see so many people coming in to a radical Black organization that is focused on recapturing the traditional Black anti-war stance. We've always been anti-war in this country. And a lot of people being inspired to do that by a rapper who has become politically conscious herself. That, to me, that's beautiful. And, you know, Ricky is in the chat, and you know, it's just, yeah, I see that she said up a little bit earlier that in the 90s, African dance resurfaced.
Right.
She's right.
That's true.
Because you couldn't see, I can't tell you how many rap videos or hip hop videos where there was some woman doing an African dance. I mean, it was great. I mean,
you was up on it more than me, but I remember how I felt when Arrested Development came out and the girl that was doing man, I was like, man, that's the sexiest thing I saw. Because, you know, then came the video vixens. But before, I mean, but it was like, yo, man, this is tight, you know. And then through marketing and everything, all that was marketed to us as being corny now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. It was being corny. Now and then came this marketing that if you want to be authentically street, then you have to like this. And we never had the amount of murder in our community until they started and you and I both grew up in two violent areas during the 90s. DC and Camden, New Jersey during the 90s was always number 1 and number 2 for the highest murder rates in the country during the 90s. And during that time, you had the perfect storm, the imperfect storm. You had crack epidemic. You had the corruption of our music, and you had and then they took away the jobs.
Yep.
So everybody, man, look, I remember in Camden how everybody was, and I don't want to stay on this, but crack was so prevalent in my community. You had old people supplementing their Social Security selling crack. I've seen grandmoms sitting on a porch with brown bags selling crack because that was the economy that was left to us.
Because there was nothing. There was literally the government defunded Black neighborhoods, Black and Latinx neighborhoods.
Right.
Summer job programs that both of us participated in. That was cut under Reagan. The funding for that was cut under Reagan, and a whole bunch of other things.
Exactly.
But look, I mean, all of this comes together in our understanding that, you know, this is what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to make these connections between, you know, these kinds of issues that happen that seem unrelated, but are actually all a part of this capitalist, white supremacist, patriarchal system that domestically, that is also the imperialist juggernaut that it is globally. We have to make these connections. And it is good to be in a community with other people who understand these things also.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way. All the people who are watching us now could be doing something else.
That's true.
So all of us are part of this struggle, because y'all out there, y'all could be going about y'all business, tune in, but because the universe has attracted us all in this struggle, this is why we're here.
Yep.
You know?
Absolutely. So we thank you for heeding the call of the universe, or however
look, if they could say the market, the universe, the universe. Exactly.
That's right. So, look, we appreciate y'all so much. Thank you very, very much. Maurice, what's going on? It's good to see you.
That's my son, y'all. That's my boy.
So, look, we appreciate y'all so much. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear in Luqman Nation, again, consider becoming a patron. You can find us on patreon.com/Luqman Nation. We're fitting to get off, so we can go watch Daruba Ben Wahad
and I
gotta
go to the store and get
Rosa Clemente. I need to get him some liverwurst before he gets grumpy. So listen, y'all take really good care of each other. As always, be really good to each other. And as the eternal chairman Fred Hampton said, peace if you are willing to fight for it.
Black Power Media.
All right, y'all. Peace. Hey, look at our patrons.
I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Hope believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Tired till the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt